Hey James, now of course I recommended the Jeff Randolph free podcast on the 121 thing. I'll link to someone at Ryan. Oh, yeah, Ryan FM8. Any, I mean, what are you gonna do? He asked, have you ever? What do you think of Eumeswil by Ernst Younger? Now, you've read Ernst Younger's fiction, but it's a little more complicated.
I
Just
read the first third of the book. The type was not that big, and my eyes were blown. I was having a real bad problem with my eyes at the time, so
okay.
I never ended up finishing it. I enjoyed it. It was it was the most psychological dystopian future that I read. So it's as if somebody that wasn't from California was writing as Philip K. Dick.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
And so it's where Philip K. Dick's and George Orwell's fiction are like, and Huxley. These are studies in dystopia from an extremely emasculated viewpoint,
right.
just like Fahrenheit 454.
Okay.
What was also a dystopian study from an extremely emasculated
Bradbury.
viewpoint.
Right.
Okay. And the only one of those authors that probably wasn't actually emasculated was Orwell. But,
Right. Yeah.
but he's writing from the only perspective that's going to be permitted in the future, which is going to be an emasculated one. So, and what I can remember of this novel, I can't remember the names of any of the characters. The viewpoint character,
The Condor, I think it was the Condor.
he's in the business of investigating, and he's also, as a survival mechanism, he has to hide what the young people would call his power level.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so it was I thought it really went. I had just read On Pain and the Forest Passage, and I really felt like this was something that was also written in that time period when those ideas were brought about. I don't know if they were or not.
All right. Now the Glass Bees. Now we might as well mention the Glass Bees. Now that one I've read, and I was really struck by. Wow, dude, this needs a lot more acclaim than it does, for predicting a lot of interesting things. But what are your thoughts on the Glass Bees by Ernst Junger?
Well, the impressive thing is that the guy that wrote the foreword, Neil Gaiman, came out and said that even though the man was deceased, he was still terrified of Ernst Junger.
Yeah, well, you should.
Okay, yeah, so I was like that, and he says it in such a way as to not dissuade the reader from reading it. In other words, science fiction is for wimps. So just because this guy's not a wimp and he's terrifying, give it a chance anyhow. But there was what I didn't like about Starship Troopers.
Okay.
That Robert A. Heinlein was, it's almost all training.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, it was like The Dirty Dozen, where it's like nothing but training. You get a half-hour action, and that's it.
Don't mention that movie to me. I don't like that movie.
Okay, so that's why I wrote The Filthy Few, because it completely skips all training.
It just does mayhem.
You just take the Dirty Dozen and you send them at the bad guys, and that's it. And shit hits the fan. Okay, so in The Glass Bees, there is more of the wordage is, and it might be an impression that's distorted my view of how much wordage was devoted to it, but I ended up with more of an impression of this retired cavalry officer, I think only a lieutenant, wasn't like a high brass guy, that was working security for an entertainment company that was also like working on world domination.
Yeah, okay? Right.
I mean, that stuff didn't start till like 10 years ago. As far as like most of us being aware of it. But boom, he had like Netflix and Disney Corporation dialed in the 1950s when he wrote this thing. That's genius.
Yeah.
And this character is actually, he stumbles upon the truth working as a security investigator for this entertainment company, but he's spending most of his time daydreaming about how great it used to be a cavalry officer back in the Great War.
Right, yeah.
So it was like a cavalry guy that survived World War I. Most of the other guys didn't. He's an older guy, and he's having these deja vus, and he's having this nostalgia. He's like, what's with these irritating like glass things?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, right.
buzzing
The
by
little
me? It's
bees,
like,
right, yeah.
and he's out there on a golf course and he starts whacking him with a golf club. I just thought it was great. It was it showed it showed Younger putting thought into how a more ordinary veteran than him would look at a new world in one of the only functionality zones left to him, which would be security work, and then how he might stumble upon it and not know how to deal with it.
Yeah, okay.
So I think it was like a genius that could figure something out far enough ahead of time not to step in that trap, writing about what most of his buddies,
Oh, yeah.
how they would discover it and step into the trap.
I mean, I'll always say it again, in terms of science fiction, I mean, and in terms of like writers who were not science fiction writers, those guys like Orwell, Huxley, Junger, other people, they seem to have nailed more of what actually really kind of happened than a lot of the sci-fi guys. But of course, they're coming at it from a different angle. You know, it's just funny. It's just like,
Well, the gee whiz era science fiction was most of the authors believed in the promise of
right.
continued technological and social progression. That they believed optimistically that the ruling class was going to be a meritocracy and it was going to encourage a meritocracy.
Right.
Beneath it, they thought, most of them, that mankind had finally broken out of this destructive cycle where the people in the charge of a civilization seem to intentionally wreck it every 250 years on purpose.
On purpose.
Either that or they act like they're drunks behind the wheel. And
Right.
maybe it is an accident.
Let's go through that stop sign. Let's see what happens.
Right. So Gene Wolfe, who survived the Korean War,
Okay.
and kind of wrote for his own enjoyment, not to make money, because I think he was a professor at a university in Texas. He got it, and Philip K. Dick got it, and Philip K. Dick had severe brain damage from a car accident and did tons of drugs.
Yeah.
Okay, so that
Younger
got him,
did drugs too.
That got him off the planet enough.
Right.
To when you look at really early Philip K. Dick stories, you can find some of them on YouTube. It's like Cops and Robbers in Space. He was writing the same kind of crap as Isaac Asimov.
Stuff. Yeah, right.
But then after he started getting into the drugs and he had the brain injury and everything, he starts writing some really insightful stuff because he stepped outside the promise.
They said Younger also did LSD and he didn't ever freak out from it. I mean, his mind was already subjected to traumas beyond belief.
It was probably nothing compared to what he actually
right. Well, yeah, it's just we met. I've said the same theme over. Like when we did we actually land on the moon video, of like the gee whiz science fiction stuff, not nailing stuff as much as like these guys who were writing from other perspectives, like who we just mentioned. Also, guys who were in combat, whatever. All right, so just like I always said, is put your sci-fi away, get your horror out, right, and get your history out. There you go.